Yes, yes, yes. This is the Two Flick Show.
他受伤很多，他生病，他与癌症抗争，他热爱 MMA。
We got the UFC fight this weekend. Dracus Duplessis.
And yeah, I mean, he was the one whining about it the whole time. I'll give him the benefit. Sure, I headbutted him. I don't care. It's a fight.
Sean, you
Dracus
had some lovely words about
Duplessis.
your training partner Tatiana yesterday. How cool is it to have
Who do
her
you
be
guys think is
alongside
going
you
to
fighting for the
win?
belt this weekend?
Dracus
You know, guys-
Duplessis or Sean Strickland?
Tatiana's amazing, man. She's a fucking savage, you know. And I don't say this about a lot of women.
Okay, Trump on South Africa. Rubio will skip G20 summit in South Africa. These are the reports. Okay. Trump cuts off aid from South Africa. It's probably tactics to get people to investigate what's going on. And yeah, let's see exactly what happens there. A lot of news. We all know how Trump does his deals. He probably says certain things just to get people to sit at the table.
Shipping or mailing something direct to an end consumer that's not prohibited by either state or federal law.
And do you have any advice for how to combat this international flow of xylazine in the United States?
I think it needs to be scheduled. I think we need a whole of government effort to, as I said, nimble enough to deal not with xylazine, but what's the next iteration that's going to come down the pike.
Thank you. I yield back my time.
So we're continuing to listen into this House committee hearing on illegal drugs and cartels. We are going to take our final 2-minute break of the hour, continuing our live coverage after that.
So what's going on, people? It's the Two Flick Show. Having a blast. Having a blast. You know, just enjoying life. Figuring out what's going on. Elon Musk is slashing government spending, which is really good. Really, really good. If you can save money, you should always try and save money. It's quite interesting. Really, really interesting. Trump knows how to get people to talk, get people around the table, and yeah, it's really interesting, his tactics to get people stirred up to speak. Protests erupt as Elon Musk moves to gut government agencies. Shout out to Elon Musk. Shout out to Elon Musk. I mean, if you're saving the government and the taxpayers' money, I'm sure people will like that. So maybe that's a good thing, you know, to try and save. Every country should look to save money, and if you can, you should try your best to make sure you save as much money as possible, because it saves the country, it saves the taxpayers.
This is Democracy Watch. Mark, we have some major news here. There's a hearing happening today on Doge's access to the Treasury. This has obviously been an issue that has gripped the entire country.
President Trump and Elon Musk are moving forward to make significant changes to the U.S. Agency for International Development, and critics are arguing USAID has become a slush fund wasting taxpayer money. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt gave a blistering account of the agency's absurd spending yesterday.
Here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look, because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
Wow. I hope they were taking notes. Now we're learning more about Elon Musk's small army to cut the wasteful spending. These young engineers were reportedly handpicked by Elon Musk, and the oldest is just 25 years old, and some of them are reportedly still in college. Joey, I took notes. $1.5 million to advance the DEI in Serbia's workforces.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, USAID.
So I have an anecdote for you. I have a friend, she texted me a few hours ago, unsolicited, didn't know I was on the show today. She said, I've been a contractor, subcontractor for USAID for 30 years. She said, I've been saying for a long time to my friends and family that it's a wasteful agency. We've done some of the stupidest projects you can ever imagine. Although it's now putting me partially out of business, it's a good thing, and that's what I voted for. That's from somebody who has been a contractor, subcontractor, who has firsthand experience for 3 decades. You know, I think it was Harold Ford yesterday on the 5 said, don't throw the baby out with the...
Okay, let's look at some funny stuff. You know, because you don't want to only get negative news, you know. So let's watch some funny stuff. Let's see.
It feels good. I like this shit.
I think it's a lung collapse.
Come on.
Think loud. Think loud.
Team meat eaters. Say you like meat. Say you like meat.
Dracus.
Say meat's not that
Dracus
bad.
Duplessis is making Nina become a meat eater.
Yes!
Which is currently a vegan.
You're on my
I
list.
assume.
What's up, everybody? I'm here with...
I'm not vegan, Dracus Duplessis.
Anyway, we're at Emerge Mixed Martial Arts out here in Sydney, Australia. And Dracus is going to show me how to barrel through people.
First I heard of it, but okay,
Wait.
let's go. No, I wasn't sure what I'm going to teach you, but I'm ready to go.
Wait, no, what, no, you show me anything.
Anything?
Anything that you feel...
Anything.
Like, not anything.
Like you said anything.
No, anything that you would do, anything in the fight, anything...
This is not getting in the middle, okay. Okay, so...
You know, anything
do
appropriate.
I need gloves?
I don't know, I just put these on.
I see that.
In case you wanted to fight. But I'm ready, I'm always ready. Did I pull
I don't
up
have a
ready?
shirt on. If I take my shirt off, I'm ready to bang.
Dude, just... As long as you keep your shorts on.
I'm ready to bang.
Just keep the shorts
This
on.
is never, ever going to go good. All right, so...
Anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
What would I teach a vegan?
You could teach me,
To hunt?
to hunt your opponent.
You can teach me to gather.
You can teach me to hunt your opponent. I can teach you to gather intel. And you can teach me how to hunt an opponent.
Okay.
And then we can meet in the middle.
And Yeah, that's perfect. That's
and we
great.
can cook up a plan. Get it? To infinity and beyond.
All right, let's go. I'm trying to think what I can teach you. Like that's.
Just don't blitz me.
I will. Have you seen my fights? That's literally the other thing
I know.
how to
So, and that's my training video.
do. So if you've ever learned about footwork, forget it. Footwork's not important.
Okay,
you start
footwork's
running
not-
towards your opponent.
Dracus
and throwing.
Duplessis
Just throw-
versus
it's just
Sean
like a-
Strickland.
No.
Everyone
There-
hoped
no.
that he
Sorry.
would
You have to go.
fight in South Africa, but
Nolan.
I guess the arenas were
works.
not
It
big
works.
enough, and
No, but
the UFC
So why
does
don't you
not
teach me?
like
I haven't decided.
stadiums, so
All right.
let's hope South Africa
Good.
does get
Okay,
to
so-
host
Okay,
a
you've done
future
had low kicks
UFC
before.
yeah, I done the low
Seen that?
kicks.
And
event.
that's what Alex Ferreira probably has like crazy
Let's
hard
see
low
where
kicks.
it goes from
Yeah,
there.
no, he does.
It's definitely a growing sport.
No, that was it. That was the one.
You've done the. I see your defense is great. I wonder where you learned that.
Your back foot, that is boom.
Ow, son. Dude, that hurts though. You have to be
No, of
careful.
course. I know.
The belly button.
So
if
you
the
get the
toe,
Chiefs,
if the toe hooks the belly
It's
button,
not
your
good. It
internal
sucks.
damage.
Basketball, but sometimes
It'll
that's
rip
exactly
your whole.
what you need to do. Sometimes you need to hit delete and then start over again. Because the people that are working in that agency, they were approving these things. So that's a part of their ethos. And if they have to go home and not come back to work, that's probably the best thing that should happen.
Rebecca.
Well, listen, it not only is it waste, but a lot of times, a lot of this stuff aggravates our allies and partners. It's ideologically controversial, so it's pushing things like abortion on conservative countries, or the LGBTQ issue, or climate ideology, and it aggravates our partners and allies. Of course, it aggravates a lot of Americans as well, and sometimes violates the consciences of Americans. Don't even want our
Let's see what
taxpayer
Patrick
dollars to go to
Bet
these
David
things.
has to
But I
say.
think the larger point is USAID was never meant to be purely charity, purely altruism. It's supposed to align with American foreign policy objectives and make sure that we have countries that are siding with the United States against our adversaries. Last point, recently went to a trip to India. India, conservative country. We want to partner with India to counter China. The Indian officials I talked to said they were irritated by the progressive policies that the Biden administration foisted on them. It hurt our relationship with India.
Yeah, I wonder how Serbia.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm supposed I could take sweet victory. No. This life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? That's what AOC called Elon Musk. Bill Gates, worried about scaling back USAID, tells View host, you could have literally millions of deaths because of USAID. University of California schools illegally use racial preferences in admissions. Lawsuit alleges. You got Democratic Party unfavorable rating hit 16-year high. The last time it was this high is when Barack Obama took office, I believe, if I'm doing the math right. Bernie Sanders, Josh Hawley team up on Trump's pledge to slash credit card rates to 10%. So a capitalist conservative teams up with a socialist Democrat, Bernie Sanders. That's interesting. Army recruitment hits major milestone, but it may not be enough. Teens spend more than a quarter of their time at school, on phones. Adam has some thoughts on that. Joe Rogan responds to Kamala Harris's alleged lies about their interview that wasn't. Fox to launch subscription streaming model as shares jump on election ad surge. And then you got a bunch of Super Bowl sports. They're removing and racism. Tickets are down 58%. I asked Dylan, I'm like, Dylan, you want to go to the Super Bowl? He says, I don't want to go watch Kansas City play. Why would I want to go watch the Chiefs play? This guy is so like...
He does not like them. Who's his team?
Joe Burrow.
Bengals.
That's his team.
That's wherever Joe's at.
Whoever's Joe's
Just Joe
at.
Burrow.
Just Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow sent him a jersey, wrote a letter to him, sent him. So him and Joe have a little bit of a relationship. Okay. Fox News, Brett Baer will interview President Donald Trump during Super Bowl pregame. For those of you guys competing on VTnews.ai, when you said yes, you got some extra points there. By the way, go score your contest, your predictions on VTnews.ai. Rob, if you want to pull it up, let's see what it is for today. If we can go to it. Whoa, this is a long one. Who will operate TikTok in the U.S. by the end of Trump's 100 days. And this is 800 points.
Holy
Musk,
moly.
Ellison, Zuck, Jimmy Donaldson.
I take the last. TikTok will not be purchased in time to prevent it from.
Really? You're going there?
I don't think there'll be any transaction where any of these
First
people
100 days.
are in. No.
There you go. So Cuomo's giving you counsel. So
800
hurry up
free
and vote.
points from Chris.
Go to vtnews.ai. Be one the first. Tom, hurry up, Tom. Get the vote in.
I don't know that it's banned.
Yeah.
But I don't think there'll be a
Is
transaction.
that literally what Tom's doing? He's cheating right now?
He's not
Okay,
doing that.
come on,
He's not
Tom.
doing that. Okay.
Let's focus
so
on
Mavericks season ticket holders are receiving huge refunds after Luka Doncic's trade. And then we got a couple other things that's going on here we'll talk about. Politico. Maybe we'll start off with Politico for how weird it is with what they did. By the way, there was even a $5 million payout to Sean Penn, apparently, that I read about. If that's true, that's insane if they did that. We will cover that.
Okay.
Ridiculous. However, Rob, when is President's Day?
Next weekend.
Next weekend is President's Day. And for President's Day, we have a limited edition merch that you can go order on vtmerch.com for President's Day. Bunch of cool stuff. This one right here, look, whatever you do, if you're not going to order anything, order this one. It is absolutely sick. This is an actual photo taken of Abraham Lincoln with the glasses when he said future looks bright.
Yes.
And he said, by the way, one of the best things is he says, there was a tweet about Abraham Lincoln on Twitter. He says, don't believe everything on the internet, something like that. When I used to tweet back in the days, it's just funny. But anyways, hey, President's Day, we got Abraham Lincoln shirt. Future looks bright. It's sick. The quality is the best. Feel the quality, Chris. How sick this is.
The Abe Lincoln thing is
Chris,
great.
wake
man.
up.
Future looks bright. Let's go to the
We
theater.
got Future looks bright sweaters. We got a bunch of other gear here. Whatever you do, go to vtmerch.com. Place the order. You get a White House sticker and a Future looks bright sticker. I got my Future look.
Luka Doncic is now in the Lakers. There's Luka Doncic. LeBronius James. LeBronius James. LeBronius James.
Participant. We just had non-contact practice today, but we got some good work in for about 45 minutes. And he'll have a stay-ready game at some point, and over the next two days. Don't take it for granted. Very grateful for this opportunity to be the head coach for Los Angeles Lakers.
On your podcast, you referenced LeBron and Luka.
Have you had enough time to process it yet? And you may think I've never seen this before, and you will be
like this week, and
Jimmy
yesterday was
Butler
no
to the
different. After
Warriors.
weeks of internal turmoil, the Heat agreed to a massive multi-team trade that will send six-time All-Star Jimmy Butler to the
Drakes.
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah, you gotta eat it.
You eat it.
Yeah, you
That's it.
Eat
That's it.
plants, carrots, prunes, lots of prunes.
You won't be able to do my technique because you only eat vegetables and fruits. So you won't be able to
And
walk
grains
through.
and legumes.
Isn't that part of vegetables?
A grain is not a vegetable.
As workforces would feel about all that DEI. I'm sure they don't turn down the money, 1.5 million. But to your point, I mean, that's not an.
Why do people still listen to Bill Gates? Really interesting. What do you guys think about him? If you see, everyone is trying to make Elon Musk as if he's a bad guy. And look, maybe he is. But if someone is trying to cut the cost and save taxpayers' money, that's a good thing. That's great.
Looks Bright sticker and Vitamin sticker on the back of my phone. And I think it's what's the number here?
I gave my inaugural shirt, the white one that I wore on the show.
Yeah.
I gave it to a very good friend of mine who loves you guys.
Please
This president
do so.
and his team are making decisions
Please
across the board on
do so.
these
Yeah.
receipts serve
Check
the
this out. You
interests
can
of
pause
the
it right
American
here. Like I said, 2 weeks ago, our CFO, the finance folks, went through line by line asking why do we have 910 monthly memberships that we're paying for services.
For valuetainment.
For valuetainment. Asking what the hell are we doing paying? Do you know what that means? 910 memberships that we're paying on a monthly basis. You know what the beautiful thing about an audit is? When you go in high forensics, you kind of go through every line by line to see what's going on. That's exactly what's going on right now. They're assuming this was never going to happen. Tom, what do you know about the story so far?
Well, what's very interesting that came out of this, and of course, the internet is abuzz with a bunch of elements. There is Matt Taibbi, Glenn Greenwald, and CBS apparently asked Politico directly, says, hey, here's where the money went. Here's the reference point. Is that you? So giving them an opportunity to say, this is what's showing up in the audit. There's the money here. Is that you? And it was at and they did not answer Matt. They didn't answer Glenn, and they didn't answer CBS as of this morning, supposedly.
Now,
so
pause for 1 second. Everybody watching right now, remember what Tom just said is a fact. And it's probably the most important part of the story, and here's why. The next time any major media outlet plays a no comment as a tacit admission of guilt, remember they refuse to comment themselves. This happens all the time in the media where they'll come to you, they give you no time to respond. PBD, turns out we hear that you're eating babies. And you're like, wait, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Sorry, I got to go to print.
I need to
PBD
hear
had
from you
no
by 3
comment.
o'clock.
And they play no comment as if PBD has something to hide. They did the same thing when they were asked a question. So just remember that. When someone says no comment, doesn't mean that they're guilty. And outlets like Politico, like the New York Times, it's also involved in this story. I don't know why they're getting a pass. They do this all the time. So just be aware as a critical thinking citizen.
He's giving us insights on how journalism
they
works
did the same thing.
and how these
And so
journalists
everyone is looking at it,
sort
making
of
the natural
manipulate
comment, saying,
questions when
why
they
on
ask you
earth is
questions,
our government
knowing that you won't
through
answer
USAID
because they don't give you enough
sending
time to
money
answer.
to a news outlet?
Right.
Why are they doing that? This is not like, hey, we're all going to go over to Vietnam for, this commemoration of this, and, we'll help you with travel. A couple of you extra people can be on Air Force One. Those things happen. But this is, why are you giving them the money for this? Then there was a indication, this is my favorite. Apparently, Politico, by a couple hours, was the first breaker of the Russian interference story during the election.
Weird.
And so it's like, wow. So now the question is, was the government not only sending money, but was the government also sending narratives? 4 o'clock, the story will be Russian interference, and here's what we got. It doesn't look good. It looks very, very gooey is the word I'm coming up with for Politico.
You're dovetailing a little bit with what Schellenberger's been talking about with some other coordination that he found between government funding and the CIA and the media, which is very cloudy at this point. The problem with this story when it came out, and I believe it was most likely leaked by the Doge guys because of who broke it, you don't see far-right podcasters breaking a lot of news, right? And they all came out at once with this story, so somebody probably leaked it to them. It was leaked as a USAID story, and it isn't. Most overwhelmingly, the money does not come from USAID.
It's only 44 grand from
right,
USAID.
but it is. So they came out heavy on USAID. Why? Because that's the narrative that they wanted to run, right? And that's what was leaked to them. That's the problem with not being an accountable media organization, is that you'll just take what you're fed. But there is two legitimate questions here. There are two legitimate questions. One is, should taxpayer dollars be going to any outlet for any reason, okay? Because of the inherent conflict that Tom is bringing up. And I think that's a legitimate question, and it's a little surprising. I've never heard of this before. There's a second question, though. Congress funds a lot of regional and local media. A lot of outlets are dying, right? Local news is struggling in a lot of places, especially in print. There's a lot of subsidies. Is that a good use of taxpayer dollars? That's a harder question for me. It's easy to say, should you be given outlets? Should you be giving the New York Times money? It's different if you're talking about the Topeka, Kansas Register newspaper.
Why would you give them money, though?
I
don't think left,
it's a
right,
debatable
center,
issue.
anybody should get money from the government because you, in a way, your loyalty lies there because they're paying you.
Right.
Yeah,
That's the argument.
No,
but I'm saying we haven't heard
give
that
the
story
opposing
yet.
argument, though. Like, argue that. Argue it and say, the argument that people would say to say, no, we should fund these small little media organizations. What is that argument for?
In the public interest of information and news, that you want an informed citizenry and that these outlets are going to close down. There will be fewer outlets. There'll be more driven by agendas. And we want to make sure that there's a robust, free media, even if that means there has to be some supporting of smaller outlets that wouldn't survive in the marketplace. That's the argument.
Remember, Voice of America was funded by the government. It's supposed to be out there, right, on a global basis, capitalism, freedom, and all that. Well, all they did is the government has taken that same technique and said, hey, wait a minute. If we do it that way, then we could also do it this way, and we could, whoever's in power, has the power of the pendulum swinging that side of the aisle, and go and spend the money and do it.
Look, you can argue that we are living proof right now that you don't need to do it this way anymore. Again, it's a political question, not a legal question. And I think that the media has evolved in a way where everybody has immediate access to information and they have their own microphone. So maybe the situation has changed and it's time to look at it because every dollar you save is a deliverable on what the promise of the last campaign was.
I'm looking at this one here. It says Politico received $44,000 from USAID, but was given millions more from by other agencies.
Yeah, mostly HHS.
HHS gave him $1.37 million.
Yeah.
Why?
So I did a little research on this. They have an energy, a special.
Elon Musk is doing work, guys. He's finding out who has been benefiting from U.S.
Congress
aid.
buys subscriptions also, Pat. But they do like a subscription that you can go in and everybody uses the same code for the New York Times so that all members of Congress can get access to these different media outlets. I don't have so much of a problem with that. They want to subscribe to Valuetainment so that everybody can see what's going on here. That's cool. They should be informed about what's happening at significant places. It's when you allow it on an individual basis, you wind up netting up these costs. And now you have like 937, as we were talking about earlier, your own audit, people getting separate subscriptions. Yeah. That's when it gets expensive.
This comes down to basically one thing. It's the government efficiency.
Yeah.
So imagine you're a family and your income is $100,000 a year, okay? And then you look at your line-by-line budget, or your audit, as Pat called it, and hold on, guys, our income is $100,000, but we spent $120,000. But not only do that this year, we did that last year, the year before, and the year before.
But it's also not
Now,
car. It's not car and driver. It's the New York Times, and there is a conflict.
But I don't even know what that means, Cuomo. But let me get to my
Car
point.
and Driver magazine. Who cares if you subscribe? There's no agenda.
Yeah.
You subscribe to the New York Times. There's a conflict.
Okay, but I'm talking about income and
I thought it was a
expenses
pretty
budget.
simple point. Good.
But
It was simple,
the
right?
point is this: imagine that you're the U.S. government. How much was our U.S. government income this year? $5 trillion. How much was our expenses? $6.8 trillion. There's a deficit of $1.8 trillion. Guys, these aren't small numbers. These aren't millions. These aren't billions. Almost $2 trillion we're in the red. So how long is that sustainable for? Pat, we talked about the U.S. GDP of what it was in 2024. How much was it? $29 trillion.
And you know which party cares about that more?
Hopefully both, but it's probably the Republican Party.
Neither. Neither give a damn.
Well, the Tea Party,
never cut spending
the Tea Party,
on their watch.
I would say agrees with that, but I don't know if they do anything. But the point is, what's our federal debt?
$37
trillion. How long is this sustainable for? So, what she said, Caroline Levin said one thing that was actually super important. She goes, "We're going to go everything line by line." Hell, freaking yeah! Let's go line by line and see if this serves the interests of the American people.
I just hope
that's what an audit
they
is.
keep doing it.
Hopefully they figure this out and they save that money.
They do that?
I hope they keep doing it. I have a feeling.
Why would they stop doing it?
Because something else will become more important. And
I don't,
there'll be the Iran nuclear deal. It'll be what's happening in Ukraine, and then people stop covering it. They stop paying attention. You stop hearing about it.
Well, I mean, I don't think that'll happen because isolating responsibilities to certain individuals. Trump may get sidetracked with a different issue, but the Doge, their job is to cut. Like, the numbers came up that X's EBITDA went up. I don't know if you saw the numbers about X's
really?
EBITDA went up the last 24 months. Now, wait a minute. How did the EBITDA double in 24 months? Well, he was able to make they're losing money, they're doing this, they're doing that. The story just came out. We'll cover that story here in a minute. But Vinny, you want to say something?
So I mean,
cut 70% of his labor force.
Yeah, 6,500
That means
employees
you didn't need
gone.
him.
He didn't need any of them. Yeah, so which
I guess.
Yeah, which goes to my point. So what? USAID spends $50 billion a year. Okay, and by the way, I did last night. That's all I was watching. Under the guise of humanitarian aid, they in part topple governments. They install politicians in different countries, and they do regime change. This is besides the political stuff. Okay, they paid. Pat mentioned it. Sean Penn $5 million, taxpayer dollars, to go meet with Zelensky just to give him an Oscar and that moment to give backing to keep giving this guy hundreds of billions of dollars. That's that. They allegedly paid Ben Stiller $4 million to meet with Zelensky. This is, again, all of our money. $68 million to the World Economic Forum. Michael Schellenberger was just on
Ben
Jesse.
Stiller says that was not true.
That's what Ben said. Okay,
Yes.
so I said allegedly.
It's not true about Stiller or Penn. Penn has an organization that he started called CORE, which is kind of like the Red Cross that does amazing work in Haiti and other distressed areas. It is a relief organization. That's what the money was tied to. And they have done a lot of work with displaced people in Poland and in Ukraine. So these guys aren't the problem, photo ops aside.
Okay, so go back to my point. The money spending is absolutely insane. And then now you're seeing all these people.
Kazakhstan, I could go on, and I'm happy to provide this list to every single one of you. Democrats are outraged that the American people want to be, they want their taxpayers going to good uses, not stuff like this.
Can't blame 'em.
But then they're very quiet about the fact that there are still North Carolinians and people in California who have lost everything. And in the last 4 years, this federal government did nothing to help them. This president will continue to put Americans first. And I think the successes of this week so far speak to that, and it's only Wednesday. So I'll see you guys next week, and we'll see you
I
this
think it's
afternoon.
super important that they go line by line. The tourism in Egypt, whatever's going on in Colombia, what's going on. But listen, leave Kazakhstan alone. It's very nice in Kazakhstan. Let's not misinformation there.
It's kind of funny. What cracked me up was Iran and Sesame Street.
Iraq.
Even worse. Iraq and Sesame Street. It's like today's show was brought to you by the letter U and the number 238. It's like this is really kind of nuts.
Was that a uranium joke?
That was a uranium joke.
Very nice.
That's right. U-238 is what they take out and they refine and they make very loud
Yellow
things.
cake.
But I think what's going on is that this is exactly what was promised. Get past all the photo ops and running to the microphone and being outraged or being so on top of it. And it really comes down to Americans are seeing the rock has been lifted up, and we're seeing the bugs underneath it. That is where our taxpayers' dollars
if you
has
remember
been used.
a few days ago, we're doing a podcast. I read a story from Politico, and I re-say the story, and I say, wait a minute, why would you write the article this way?
I remember that.
And then I'm like, oh, it's Politico. That was literally, no, it wasn't. It was one of them that I read. I don't know what the story was, Rob. But I read, I'm like, what kind of a title is that? It's kind of a weird title to write that one. And it was Political. And then 5 days later, the story comes out with
See,
Political.
that's the problem. That's the problem with the conflict is that, you can have problems with headlines. I mean, headlines are all disingenuous, right? I mean, they almost never reflect what you'll find halfway down a story. That's the problem with balance in media and judging your outlets. And now they created in a conflict. And that's what they have to deal with because now the suspicion has a reasonable basis. Nobody has any problem with cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. Literally, the acronym WFA is part of everybody's political science handbook in messaging. Mm-hmm. They just say WFA, and they mean waste, fraud, and abuse. It just never really happens. And I have no problem with this list of things. If you don't like them, that's fine. But the idea that, this is the big nut. Everything that they've listed so far from USAID is less than 0.5% of its budget. So that's why Marco Rubio came out and said, hey, USAID matters. There's certain things that
He
equate
changed real quick, though.
with soft power. But, even this time, he wants more control over this. He doesn't want Elon to just shut USAID because as Secretary of State, you want the power of some money for soft power. So, I think you just got to be careful about the extremes, but the concept of let's go through it and let the people, feel and let political judgments be made, no one's going to have a problem.
But Chris, why is it that because this is all I've been seeing. I haven't seen one Republican in Washington in the street yelling and cussing and saying Elon is a threat and let's go after him, let's go in the streets because of the USAID. It seems like one side is pissed off that we're wasting all this money because it seems like their wallets are getting hurt. Why haven't I seen one Republican out there?
Because Elon works for the Republicans. If Biden had done this with Bill Gates, Republicans would be going crazy. Vinny, there is an immutable truth here that everybody has to get their hands around. If you think one party is better than the other,
I'm not
when
in a
it
party.
comes to playing to advantage, then you are being sold by the game.
But here's my thing. Let's just say I'm an independent, which I am. The past 4 years compared to what's happening right now, I don't need to be a Republican or a Democrat. I just need to have eyes and ears. And the left is the shit show of this world. And if Kamala won, where would we be right now?
Well,
the hole we'd be going and we'd be done.
Let's go through this.
I don't know, but you guys would be very upset. I know that much.
Oh, what do you mean?
Bill Gates worried about scaling back USAID.
Right.
Tells the View host you could have literally millions of deaths. So if you want to play this clip, you said Bill Gates, here's Bill Gates. Go for it.
And you, Mr. Gates, you also called Elon Musk's political influence abroad, quote, insane, along with another word we can't repeat here. But what's your take on his political access and influence here in America right now?
Well, Elon, his private sector work, has been very innovative, really fantastic. A lot of private sector people, when they get into government, they don't take the time necessarily to see what the good work is or why it's structured the way it is. So I'm a little worried, particularly with this USAID stuff. My foundation partners with USAID on nutrition and getting vaccines out. And, there's incredible people. They're not actually worms that work there. So, hopefully we'll get some of that work back in shape. In fact, if we don't, you could have literally millions of deaths. So,
what?
With aid, people think, wow, how much do we give to these countries? As you said, it's less than 1%. People think it's 5%, and it should be 2%, but it's actually under 1%.
Wow, and still saving lives. Well,
am I the only one that doesn't trust anything that comes out of his mouth? Is it just me? Do you trust anything that comes out of his mouth? With his sweater vest, with his button down underneath.
What is it exactly that you don't trust about him?
Adam, sometimes, people like facts at 100%. My intuition, I don't trust anything that comes out of his mouth, zero. And if you listen to what his wife, Melinda Gates, said about him, and one of the main reasons she left him was his relationship with Bill Gates, Epstein. I don't want to hear anything about this guy. The computer nerd that's pushing vaccines and threatening millions of people.
How come the Epstein files aren't one of the things that are being exposed, by the way, along with JFK and Bobby Kennedy and Dr. King's deaths? How come they're not releasing Epstein?
Well, what if they're timing it perfectly? They're going one at a time.
What's your insinuation?
I don't know.
Mr. Cuomo?
I think people make choices about what matters to them and what doesn't matter to them, and I don't
disagree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not being skeptical of it because, look, my problem with skepticism is it's the lowest form of intelligence. So you now have to take a couple more steps.
Yeah.
Is Gates right that millions could die? It's a possibility. It's not a probability. Why? Because you're doing the things with the mosquito nets and the AIDS and the malaria and all these different things that fall under USAID. I get it. Things could be worse in situations. The mistake is making it like there's a right and a wrong. There's a preference, and they are legitimate political questions. And if Trump wants to go through this, fine. How Musk does it is worthy of scrutiny. The first thing that should have happened that didn't happen, that would have been very helpful, Musk should have done personally what he's doing with these agencies. What money do you get from the government? Mm-hmm. What are your relationships? What information are you accessing, and what does that mean to your businesses? That's my only concern about Elon, is I don't want him, I don't know him, I'm not judging him, but you're giving a private citizen access to information and dynamics when they are in the business of information and those same dynamics. That's all.
Yeah,
so
well,
I just think he has to be transparent.
But here's what I would say to you. When you're saying that, to me, everybody gave the Democrats many years to prove that they were right. And guess what ended up happening? They were wrong.
About what?
About
Everything.
God knows how many things they were wrong about. By the way, don't ask me. So I'm just a regular guy. Don't ask me about
You are
how
not
I think
just
about
a regular
it. Well,
guy.
but when you look at the data and you see it's saying that the trust in the Democratic Party is the lowest in 16 years.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Because
Was
they
that
lost to
accident-
somebody they thought they were told, Democrats were told they were going to win. And people get really angry.
I disagree, bro.
Why do you
And
think it is?
Let me tell you why I disagree. So let me we're going here. I got a couple things. Let's stay on USA, and then I'm going to go to the Democratic Party, 16% to address what comments you just said. So let's stay on because we have Epstein we got to get to. We got the Democratic Party, and we got to finish up USAID so we can go to the next one. All right. Do you think USAID has had more good or more abuse there? Do you think they've done more good or abuse with the money that they've got?
Good.
You think more good? What percentage is more good?
I have no idea. It's not a relevant metric to me. The metric would be go through it line by line, and then prove me wrong. Because I think that Democrats and Republicans have contributed to their budget since 1961. So you're going to have to look at it, and you can go through it, and I don't have any problem with any of that.
Yeah.
I do think, look, there's always politics at play. The idea that, Trump was there 2016, 2020, okay? But there was no waste, fraud, and abuse there at USAID. So the idea that this is new, I don't agree with.
That's not it, though. No, this is not about 2016 versus 20. The difference in that argument would be Trump, when he went in 2016, he had no clue what he was doing. He knew nothing. He knew not where the bodies were, who to trust, who not to trust. 4 years later...
He went in there saying he was going to drain the swamp. He was going to do exactly what he's doing now.
4 years later, he looked at everything. He says, so the strategies I used wasn't effective.
Yes.
In the first term. Okay. But this time around, some could say he's done more in his first 3 weeks than he did the first year when he was president. What he's doing the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, I agree.
He's actually doing what he said he was going to do in the first term. But the first time he didn't know where the bodies were. So let's go to the next one with the Democrats, right? Where the story comes up here, Rob, can you tell me what page that is where it says the Democratic Party's trust is at the lowest in 16 years? I think I read it. One of you guys had that as a stored comments on.
Bottom of 11.
Bottom of 11. Okay, thank you, Tom. So it says Democratic Party unfavorable rating hit 16-year high, okay? 16-year high. Let's read this.
Good.
And
is my reaction.
Okay, great. But I'll give you why I think, because you said something else. They thought they were going to win. So, here we go. Quinnipiac poll finds the Democratic Party unfavorable rating at 57%, the worst since the poll began tracking, while only 31% of voters view the party favorable. leaving them 26 points underwater. Meanwhile, the Republican Party is in a much stronger position with 43% favorable and 45% unfavorable, making them only 2 points underwater, a 12-point advantage over the Democrats' favorability and 12 points lower than unfavorability. Trump's numbers are stronger than both parties with a 46% job approval rating against 43, placing him 3 points above. In real clear politics,
Interesting. A lot of more politics to happen. This is the Two Fleek Show. And as always, I don't give two fleeks. Have a good day.
Anyways, we see all these polls. But here,